Goodbye 2024 recruiting cycle and hello 2025. We've told you before and we'll tell you again, recruiting never stops. So we are on to the next. And we are here to give you a primer on the top talent and top teams in 2025. We also have a live commitment. So fans of Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and USC, stick around. You could land four-star offensive tackle Owen Strebig. Plus, we have a little surprise for you. A special edition of the College Football Recruiting Show starts right now. You are taking a look live in Waukesha, Wisconsin. That is where four-star offensive tackle Owen Strebig is set to make his college commitment. You could tell he's a state champion. Looking forward to seeing where he plays his college ball at the next level. That is coming up in just a bit. Hello and welcome into the show. I'm Emily Proud. A reminder to make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and hit that like button. It makes us very happy. Something that makes me happy is the guys that we have in studio. Check this out. It's our Director of Scouting, Andrew Ivins, and National Recruiting Analyst, Tom Loy. That's right. Tom is joining our national team. We are so excited for you to be a part of the group. First off, congratulations. Second, tell us more about what your role is.
Yeah, very excited, fired up, to be honest. It's a long time coming. I'm going to miss the day-to-day interaction at Irish Illustrated covering Notre Dame, but not really going anywhere unless they stop recruiting altogether. But super fired up to join these guys, Andrew Ivins, Cooper Patagno, the rest of the scouting team, the recruiting team with Brandon Huffman, but very fired up. It's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, something tells me Notre Dame's not going to slow down. Maybe a little bit. I think they have the most commits in the class.
Number one class.
Right now in 2025. Yes,
yeah.
We're going to talk all about the 2025 class. But while I've got you guys here, I mean, we have a member of our recruiting team and of our scouting team. And today's all about turning the page to 2025. As we look to do that, what is the relationship like between those two teams as we look to evaluate this new crop?
I'm going to steal a company line here. Separation of church and state, right? No one has done it in the recruiting industry, which has been around for a while. So we have a scouting department that's in charge of the top 247. We're trying to get it right. And then we have our recruiting team. And we have a team of analysts around the country. And Tom's group, we still take their boots on the ground into consideration. But at the end of the day, the scouting department, we're going to order these guys 1 through 247, and then we're going to order them in that 90 in positional rankings as well. Are we going to miss on some people? Absolutely. That's scouting football. It's not easy. Just ask the people that do it in the NFL. You're going to have your misses, but we're trying to perfect our process. We've got some new software. Our partners at NextGen, we're doing exactly what the guys at the Senior Bowl and some of the top Power 5 programs are doing. So no longer are the rankings going to be dictated, as an exchange of favors and a trading of information. We've separated the two. Tom over here is going to crush it when it comes to reporting on where the kids are going, and we're going to nail it with the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all about the team. Everyone's going to eat, big pie out there. But it's really all about the team working together. They do a phenomenal job. Our team's going to do a phenomenal job. And it's really about staying in touch, staying on top of it, and just kind of working hand in hand. So we just don't just own the story at the start, but kill the entire thing. So it's going to be fun working with these guys.
Yes, it's going to be fun seeing the work that comes out from you guys, too. And you're going to see it today on this show. So excited to break down the 2025 class, give you a taste of what it looks like. But we're going to start the show as we always do, and that is by hitting those headlines, because there is stuff to talk about. We have an update on the number 4 quarterback in the class, USC verbal commit, quarterback Julian Lewis. He took a trip to Indiana, though, this past weekend. Tom, how should Trojans fans be feeling about this?
Not great. I feel like he's not done taking any visits. Shout out to Tino Sinceri at Indiana. The guy has been working extremely hard to get Lewis on campus. This is a guy that's known Lewis for 7 years. He had him on campus at Florida State for a youth camp, so he's doing a great job. Indiana's a team to watch.
Okay. In coaching news, Coach Prime has his defensive coordinator. The Buffs are bringing in former Bengals safeties coach Rob Livingston to call the defense. Andrew, we're all kind of focused on fixing that offensive line, which is important. But now that a play caller is in place, what are your expectations for this Buffs D?
Yeah, everyone wants to talk about the 56 sacks they allowed last season, but they were 124 nationally in scoring defense. They gave up a lot of points. Look, Prime has added a ton of talent via the transfer portal on the defensive side of the ball. I think Livingston's an interesting choice. He's never really called plays anywhere, and he's only has 2 years of college experience. Obviously, he's been there on Sundays. I think if you're Travis Hunter, Cormani McClain, you're fired up. But I look at that 2 deep, I kind of have some questions.
Okay. Well, speaking of sacks, we have a top 5 for top 247 linebacker Anthony Sacca. He has narrowed it down to Notre Dame, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Duke, and Alabama. Tom, who do you think the early favorite is here?
Yeah, I'm watching Ohio State. Coach Knowles, Coach Laurinaitis doing an outstanding job there. Strong connection there between Sacca, the high school program at St. Joe's in Philadelphia. I'd probably say Notre Dame is the number 2 spot right now. There's some people inside the Goog that feel really good about it. But again, my edge is to Ohio State right now.
Okay, stay tuned. We have a live commitment from 4-star offensive tackle Owen Strebig. His finalists are Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and USC. Andrew, whoever gets him gets what?
A potential pillar on the left or the right side of the line. Size is unverified. We don't have third-party measurements, but he looks over 6'7", well over 300 pounds. He's athletic enough to block on the move, and he has the potential to shine as a powerful drive blocker at the next level.
Yeah, this is a big dude. We saw him setting up his camera earlier. Looking forward to seeing where he picks his school coming up later on the show. But as we have established, we are turning the page to 2025. Let's check out the top 10 team rankings. This is very early on in the process, but Notre Dame sitting at number 1 with 13 total commits. That's the most in the country. You'll notice a typical trend that we see with recruiting rankings. Half of the top 10 is made up of SEC schools. Some early momentum, though, for Clemson. We'll talk about all of those classes, starting at the top, though, with Notre Dame, a spot that an SEC school has held for the last 16 cycles. Georgia, fresh off their victory in the 2024 class. We have a long way to go. But, Andrew, what do you like about how they've built this class early on?
I love the defensive backs. It starts with Ivan Taylor. I think he has some of the best football IQ we have seen so far in the 2025 cycle. Obviously, he has some NFL bloodlines, but he's a playmaker on the back end. They've paired him with Ethan Long, who reminds me a little of Kyle Hamilton. I'm not saying he's the athlete that Kyle Hamilton is, but similar frames. You turn on the tape, they move similar. I think he's going to offer some versatility on the back end. And they also got Cree Thomas committed out of Arizona, multi-sport athlete. He has shined on the 7-on-7 circuit. I think they're going to try him out on the perimeter. So I love the defensive backs. I also love this tight end, James Flanagan. Two-way snaps, legit hockey player. Reminds me of Ben Sinnott, the tight end out of Kansas State. Also had a hockey background. He's going to be selected in the upcoming NFL draft. I think James Flanagan is a name to know. Also, shot put, discus, excellent markers there. And then you got to talk about Deuce Knight, the quarterback. This might be the most athletic arm in the 2025 cycle. 4.5 on the lasers in the 40-yard dash, over a 40-inch vertical jump. He's ran for 1,600 yards. Needs to keep improving as a passer. But, man, if Deuce Knight hits, that quarterback room in South Bend, they keep replenishing it with the high school ranks and the transfers. It's something to get excited about. Deuce Knight, better spark score than Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
Says a lot, Tom.
It's kind of a big deal.
What do you think of this class?
Honestly, they're not even done yet. I mean, I know this is a guy that you love, Andrew. Derek Meadows, one of the top receivers in America, an absolute freak. We saw him at Battle Miami. He was awesome. So I really think that they got a great shot there. Keep an eye on Bama, Georgia, Florida, all offered. Another guy to watch off the edge is Damian Shanklin, an in-state kid, top 247 guy, also considering Ohio State and Michigan. But my crystal ball is on Notre Dame. I feel really good about them getting that done. And then lastly, offensive tackle Jack Lang, one of the top players in America, a guy that I think, I'll stay in my lane, but a guy that I think is going to be stock up all the way through. He's a guy that I look a lot and see a lot of similarities to Joe Alt, who's going to be a first-round pick. So lots to like there. I think Notre Dame's in a great spot. Another crystal ball I have on the Fighting Irish.
Okay, well, yeah, a lot of crystal balls in the Fighting. This is shaping up to be a very large class if they continue at this pace, but it is number 1 right now as of February. Number 2, LSU. Just 9 commits, but 2 of those guys are in the top 5, and they're number 1 at their positions. I mean, you've got quarterback Bryce Underwood, wide receiver DeCorian Moore. What's the potential for that duo? No Tigers fans are looking forward to seeing that one day.
Think about Joe Burrow, and then take your pick of the 2019 wide receivers. Ooh. That little
good
duo.
Options there.
Yeah, when you had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, or Terrence Marshall. Look, DeCorian Moore is a lot smaller than those guys. He's got a different little skill set. We saw him at the Battle Miami tournament. He's been excellent the past 2 years at Duncanville High School. He's a chunk play machine, creative in the slot, can get open, and more importantly, he gets into the end zone. I think that is so important for the wide receivers. So we're big fans of him. Ryan Williams, reclassified, signed with Alabama yesterday. So DeCorian Moore is wide receiver 1. I think it's going to take a lot for him to move off of that spot. And then we talk about Bryce Underwood. Elite resume at this stage, 40-2 as a starter, 120 touchdown passes, and then you get around him, not just watching him on film, but having seen him on the camp circuit, having seen him in the offseason tournaments. It's the type of quarterback where you're like, okay, franchise frame. This is the guy I want my team to be around. I want him in the huddle. All of 6'3", 200 pounds. So that duo, if Brian Kelly, Joe Sloan can hold on to it, I think there's going to be some fireworks in Baton Rouge, much like that 2019 offense for the Tigers.
I'll never forget watching Underwood in Atlanta when we were there together and it was freezing cold. This dude was next level. So fun to watch. But I actually recently tossed in a crystal ball for LSU. It's not just about Notre Dame. 4-star running back James Simon, feel really good about the Tigers. I think they're going to get it done. But you also mentioned 2 top 10 players already committed. How about a third? Another guy you probably like, DJ Pickett, one of the top players in the country. I have no idea what position he's going to play in college. You could probably shed a better light on that, but I feel like they have a real shot there. I'm watching Clemson, Miami as well, but LSU could absolutely land Pickett, and that's what a trio. Yeah.
Can you shed some light on where you think Pickett's going to play?
I don't know what he is, but I want him on my team if I'm a head coach or I'm a GM at the next level. Tom, me and him saw him at Battle Miami. He's listed at 6'2". He's one of the rare kids where it's like, no, he's taller. He might actually be 6'4". So some schools are saying wide receiver. I think he might be corner, safety. I don't know, DJ Pickett. He's kind of like a one of one.
I feel like we see some guys like that come through the class. We're like, we don't know where they're going to play, but on the field.
That's what makes it fun.
Exactly. And the evaluation process is, I wouldn't say just beginning, because I know you've watched a lot of these guys, but it's not over yet. How about Clemson? They have been so hot this month, landing 2 top 100 players in edge Ari Watford and defensive lineman Isaiah Campbell. How can those guys maybe help the Tigers get back on track in recruiting?
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, okay? We all know Clemson doesn't go in the transfer portal, so they got to hit on the high school recruits. So I'm going to talk about Dabo Sweeney and his offseason staff additions. He brings in Nick Eason to coach the defensive line, Matt Luke to coach the offensive line. That's him going outside of his bubble. And you look at this Clemson recruiting class, that's where the strength is, in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Ari Watford, Isaiah Campbell, Amari Adams, big functional pass rushers. Then defensively, or offensively, Brandon Jacobs, Eaton Ware, Jalen Beckley. Those are large, athletic offensive linemen. And the thing is, when a kid commits to Clemson, and this has been the case for a while now, they normally don't waver and decommit. They're not going to take visits to other schools. So I think the fact that Clemson right now is sitting number 3, this feels like it could be a top 10 class because only more kids are going to come on campus for junior days. I remember Clemson, just a few years ago, started doing those summer official visits. Their recruiting class is normally in place by the 2nd or 3rd week of June. So this is an excellent start. And I think it starts with those 2 new assistant coaches, Nick Eason and Matt Luke.
I mean, you mentioned the trenches. I've been contemplating kicking around a crystal ball for offensive guard Chauncey Gooden, who's a top 175 player in America. So, again, another big boost for them. But I also like them on the back end of the defense with Jordan Young, a safety that I absolutely love. I believe Anna Adams actually tossed in a crystal ball for Clemson recently. So I feel real good about that one. I might join her on that. And then another guy is cornerback Jonte Gilbert, a top 50 player. Again, I think Clemson's setting the bar. I think they're in a good spot there. They just got to seal the deal.
Right. I know I said that Clemson was really hot on the trail right now, but I mean, nobody can touch what the Buckeyes have been doing, especially last month. Fantastic start to 2024. 3 players in the top 15. You are reading that right. Andrew, what are the highlights in this class early on?
It's the corners. I think this could be the best corner haul since Alabama got Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold back in the 2021 cycle. Devin Sanchez, Naeem Offord, both early 5 stars for us. I got a ton of Ohio State fans in my mentions saying that we don't rank these Ohio State kids high. That's a bit crazy to me.
I see some high rankings.
Yeah, 2 5 stars already at this stage. That's a little bit wild. But Sanchez and Offord, we went back and forth in our November update. All right, who is corner one? Opinions were split behind the scenes at 24/7 Sports. I think this battle is going to go all the way through All-Star season, and we'll figure out. But these guys are the real deal. Height, weight, speed corners. They can play out on the perimeter. And then they have Blake Woodby committed. Probably my favorite inside corner. Saw him in person twice this season in pads. Also at the Future 50, was in the fastest man competition there. So you got those three guys. And then the quarterback, Tavian St. Clair, number 3 QB for us right now. We stamped him early. I think it's an excellent evaluation by Ohio State. 6'3", 210 pounds. Love how he layers the football. He's athletic, can throw on the move. They bring in Julian Sayin, Aaron Nolan. They got the other transfers there. Tavian St. Clair is a name you need to know because I think he can win games on Saturdays, and I think he could potentially play on Sunday. So excellent start in the secondary and then at quarterback.
I actually remember questioning Ohio State whether they should have taken Ryan Montgomery or St. Clair, but the more I watch, your evaluation, Ohio State's evaluation, it's completely spot on. I love the kid. But everybody knows I got a crystal ball in for Ohio State. I'm kind of going against the grain for Nate Roberts, 4-star tight end. Oklahoma they got the family poll, and there's some other schools involved, Oregon as well. But feel really good about the Buckeyes adding to that class. But you talked about the secondary. Dorian Brew. The rich get richer. If they get this one done and beat the likes of Georgia or Texas A&M and some others, what a haul on the back end of the defense for Ohio State. I already said it, but rich get richer, and they're not slowing down anytime soon.
I just think about those positional battles in practice between the wide receivers that they have at Ohio State and some of these cornerbacks coming in. So they're only going to get better when they arrive at Ohio State. So already a pretty awesome class there. You mentioned Oklahoma potentially battling with Ohio State for some prospects. This is a weird sentence to say, but they're the only other SEC school in the top 5 at this stage. What do you like about the 2 guys that we have highlighted here, 2 guys currently in the top 247?
I would have tripped up and said that they're still in the Big 12 as well. Oklahoma's class, this is what stands out to me. They have 6 commits, and they're all 6 in-state commits, and only 2 of those guys are inside the top 247. They continue to clean up at Carl Albert High School, which has won 7 state titles in the past 8 years. Ryan Fogier, offensive lineman, recent commit for him. I love them. I think Oklahoma does an excellent job when it comes to the trench play, identifying these big athletic offensive linemen that just seem to be figuring things out. You look at him, he launches out of his stance. I think there's some versatility, can play 3 or 4 different spots on the inside for the Sooners. And then how about Marcus James? He's how you want a mid-skill to look. Play some tight end, play some linebacker. Sounds like the Sooners want him on the defensive side of the ball, but his offensive tape is fun. He's got some big man twitch, or I shouldn't say big man, but mid-skill twitch. A name to know, one of the more unique prospects we've come across in 2025 in that region.
Oklahoma's got a really good class, but I actually think it could get better if there's 3 guys that I'm keeping an eye on in the top 247. Edge Max Granville, really good player that I think they could land. I think they're probably in the top 2. You got cornerback Kobe Sellers that I think actually Oklahoma is the favorite for at this point. And then lastly, safety Jonah Williams, a top 50 prospect. Just a big-time talent. You guys have him ranked great. Sooners fans need to be fired up. But all 3 of these guys, which I could see it happening, man, what a boost for that team.
Yeah, looks like they need it, right? Only in the top 5.
Only in the top 5.
Seem to be doing all right so far. Guys, this is awesome. It's like peanut butter and jelly. We got the scouting. We've got the recruiting intel. So if you've not already, go ahead and hit that like button because I am liking this conversation. Okay, so we talked about the top 10 teams. Let's show you them one more time. Once again, very early on in the process. Ohio State, though, is that team that has the highest per player ranking. So keep an eye out for the Buckeyes. But I want to know, Andrew, before we move on to talking about some of these players, who's a team maybe outside this, again, early top 10 who could make some moves this cycle?
Oregon. Dan Lanning, the Danimal. They just finished number 3 in the 2024 cycle. Just had a huge junior day as well. Tons of prospects from all around the country. Look at the current landscape on the West Coast. USC, there's question marks. Chip Kelly, is he at UCLA? I don't really know. We talked a lot about the Bruins earlier this week. The door is wide open for Oregon to get the top prospects on that side of the country. And then Dan Lanning has shown he's not afraid to go to the East Coast, to get into Florida, to go into Texas as well. 2 names I'm keeping an eye on because I think it would say a lot if the Ducks can get them. Michael Fasusi, top 247 offensive tackle out of the Lone Star State. I think he's a prototypical potential franchise left tackle on the left side. And then, Dan Lanning went and saw David Sanders, the number 2 ranked prospect. I mean, at this stage, if Oregon is involved with a legitimate blue chip talent, I think you have to consider them, especially if David makes it out there for a visit. So I'm keeping my eye on Oregon. I think we're going to have a better idea of who realistically is a target for them here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to go just outside the top 10. We're going to look at the number 11 team in the country, Tennessee. And it's not because we're in Nashville right now, but I feel really good about the Volunteers class. I really like what they're doing. I actually dropped a story today on 24/7 Sports about top 100 receiver athlete Cameron Sparks out of Chattanooga. Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, Miami, all involved. I actually think it's going to be really hard to beat Tennessee. I actually considered before the show putting in a crystal ball for the Volunteers, talking to Ryan Callahan. He feels really good about Tennessee as well. And another kid right here in the backyard in Nashville, Ethan Utley, top 247, 4-star defensive lineman, just visited Tennessee. He's also got Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas also in play. But again, as long as Tennessee continues to push, do the right things, and nothing goes wrong, it's another guy that I struggle to see picking anything other than the Volunteers.
Already having success in state and within
That's key.
Where we are right now, here in Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee having success there. Okay, so those are the teams. Let's talk about some of the players because that's what make up the great teams. Let's start with Duncanville quarterback Kean Russell. What do you like about his potential? A guy who's currently outside the top 247, but you like what you've seen so far.
Yeah, we saw him at the Battle of Miami.
Saw everybody there.
Yes, starstruck. Look, he at Duncanville has been surrounded by a strong supporting cast, but he's the captain that docks the boat in the choppy waters. He gets the job done. He's an explosive mover in the pocket. You look at him, you would think, okay, he's a run-first type of quarterback. That is absolutely not the case. What I love about Russell is how he keeps his eyes down the field and looks to make the big play. Not afraid to take a hit. I've tossed this out before. Play styles are very similar, and just so everyone's aware, I saw Lamar Jackson multiple times in high school. I think they have similar builds. Athletically, this is a kid that went 4.6 in the 40-yard dash, 4.2 in the short shuttle. So yes, he's been surrounded, throwing to Decorian more, but I think he's a guy that can win on Saturdays, and he gets the job done. He makes explosive plays. So Kean Russell, potential riser for us. Let's see him in the camp circuit, then hopefully at the Elite 11 finals.
Honestly, not much else to say. I mean, he was a phenomenal kid, great to deal with in person, and even ever since the Battle Miami camp, freaky upside. Committed to SMU, but he just recently picked up offers from Florida and UCLA. He's got a lot more coming his way, so the more patient he is with the process, I'm sure the more worried the SMU coaching staff's going to be. But, man, I love Russell.
I love that you clarified the comp to Lamar Jackson, and it's not necessarily the NFL MVP that we're seeing right now, but what he looked like in high school, right?
Oh, I think what he did at Louisville. Let's not forget he has a trophy.
He did. He had some success in college as well. And
look, it's early. I think a lot of fans roll their eyes if we toss out NFL MVP for
He doesn't look like that right now, though. You're saying that he has the potential to develop.
Play styles are similar.
Yes. That's what we love to see. That's why we do the comps on there, too. It's just to rile up the crowd. Let's talk about another quarterback, though. The number 9 QB in the class, Matt Zollers. He has his finalist list down to Florida, Georgia, Penn State, and Missouri. But what kind of player will one of those teams land?
I think he's kind of the best of both worlds in terms of huge arm, and he's uber athletic. This is a kid that wasn't able to play basketball as a junior, but he's playing it here in the winter as a junior, and there are clips of him throwing down dunks. What I also like, I said that arm, he's got a cannon. Watching his tape earlier this morning, he puts a ball 63 yards in the air for a first down touchdown. I think the receiver barely reeled it in as he dove to the ground, but another guy that also doesn't throw interceptions. He protects the football. One of the best INT rates so far we have come across in the 2025 cycle, only throwing on once every 75 attempts. I think he's a guy that can play in an RPO attack. He's quick twitch. He can get out of trouble just like Kean Russell. I think that's so important in this age with everyone rostering these freaky pass rushers. And then he's got the frame as well. So really interested to see where he ends up, Tom. I know Georgia got him on campus. I think that one is certainly intriguing given what that room looks like.
Yeah, I think the smart, safe money, whatever you want to call it, is probably on Penn State. But if you're actually like a little bit of a gambler and a risk taker, I think you need to keep an eye on the Bulldogs. I think Georgia's got him high on their board. As long as they continue to push for him and make him a priority. I know there's other guys involved like Ryan Montgomery. They have a strong list at quarterback. But if they push for him, I honestly think Georgia's going to be really tough to beat. He loves everything about that program.
what's not to like? You got the national champions. You have a lot of success.
It's hard to nitpick.
You don't lose a lot of football games. So, yeah, it's a pretty easy sell there. I love that you mentioned his basketball skills. I love these dual sport athlete guys, which brings me to the next player who's outside the top 247. Ed Small, he's a wide receiver. What's interesting about him, though, is he was once committed to play baseball at Texas, but has since made it known that he would like to focus on football. So what do you like about his game on the football field?
Well, you can certainly tell that he played outfield, just how he attacks the football, tracks it and reels it in over his shoulder. He runs underneath the ball exceptionally well. We saw that at the National Combine down in San Antonio. He was a top performer for us, stood out to our team we had there, Hudson Standish and the other guys. Short area quickness, and he is fearless over the middle. I mean, you can play him as a slot. He is not afraid of getting absolutely tattooed by a linebacker there in the middle. So I love that about him. Last name is Small. He is not the biggest individual, but someone that can set defensive backs up and create separation. Had 7 catches a game, or averaged 7 catches a game as a junior, which is certainly notable.
Love the kid. I really do. Got to know him a little bit. I love the kid because he tags me in all his offers. He's been blowing up the last couple weeks. It's been really fun to watch. And like you said, he tore it up at the underclassmen combine in San Antonio. But keeping an eye on Houston, keeping an eye on TCU. Picked up some big offers recently. Dual sport guy, big fan. But shout out to my guy Mike Roach on our national team. He said Stanford is actually the team to watch. If they offer, that could be the game changer in his recruitment. High academic kid. Wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame got involved, but Stanford's the team to watch if they jump in.
Yeah, I think Dad went to Vandy. Sister plays lacrosse at Dartmouth.
It all makes sense.
Not surprised. Stanford's in the mix.
Yeah.
It does make sense. I'd love, too, that you mentioned that you can kind of see the baseball in his game. Where do you take into consideration some of the dual sport athletic moves that some of these guys make? I mean, how important is that to not specialize and to play some different sports?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, baseball, the hand-eye coordination on Ed Small shows up usually with the wide receivers. It's the basketball background. And you look at this past year's NFL draft, Zay Flowers was an talented hooper. I actually saw him play some basketball. Quentin Johnson, another basketball guy. It's just knowing who's around you. And if you play a sport like basketball, think about it. If I want to get to the bucket, I got to go around someone. If I'm defending, I got to prevent them from coming to the bucket. So we always look for it. With the track and field, the throwing metrics that translates to lower body explosiveness. Baseball is rare. Normally it's a pitcher, but that short area quickness, it'll show up.
Every coach that I deal with that I respect, that's really good at their job, first question when they're trying to get to know a kid is, what else does he play besides football? So, I mean, clearly you're checking all the boxes when you're doing baseball, football. It's such a high level. So, yeah, Small's one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's committed to Texas. That is a very
kind of a big deal.
Very good baseball program. Looking forward to seeing what he does on the football field, though. Let's talk about another wide receiver, and that's Raiden Bines Bright. He's a top 60 receiver, so a guy that should be on your radar. He's got offers from some top-tier programs. Who are some of those teams that we should keep an eye out for, Tom?
Notre Dame, Michigan, USC. There's a lot of teams that are involved now, and there's a lot of teams that are going to get involved. This is a guy, again, I'll stay in my lane, but stock up. I'm just saying it, calling it now. I think this kid is going to end up being one of the best receivers in the country. I absolutely love this kid. But like I said, USC, Michigan, Notre Dame, he's going to take spring visits. I think he's a guy who wants to get the process over earlier than later, so I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a summer decision. But keep an eye on these 3 programs. He's going to take visits. Those are the ones to watch right now.
That's why we call it an evaluation process, right?
Love that. Love that.
That's why it starts after the freshman season and doesn't finalize until, now they're in college after the All-Star games.
Wow.
He just recently transferred into IMG Academy, which has churned out some notable wide receivers in recent years. We're going to get him at the IMG Pro Day in a few weeks. But Tom, I turned on the tape. I agree with you. One of the best I've seen so far at creating separation with his release at the line of scrimmage. I think he poses a difficult problem for defensive backs. Do you want to put him in press man or do you want to play off man? Because he can get around you with the speed and break you off. I'm a big fan, Tom. I agree. Sets people up as a route runner. One to know for sure.
Make sure we get that clipped. Ivins agrees with me. Let's go.
I love it. See, that's what happens when I ask you the question first, is you get to lay it out, and then we'll be like, oh, yeah, that was fantastic scouting. Well done. This whole segment is well done, and this whole show. We appreciate you guys. Another reminder to hit that like button if you have not already. I have many, many questions for them, and I can ask them till I'm blue in the face. But if you have any questions for them, go ahead and drop it in the chat. The only way you can access the chat is if you are a subscriber to the channel. So make sure you do that too. Now that we've gone through all the things that I'm required to ask, one more player I want to ask about, Marion Dye. He's a 3-star edge, currently outside that top 247. You told us that the dream school is Ohio State, but it was Georgia that may be creeping up on him. So Tom, what's the latest there?
I think you nailed it. I mean, I think everybody assumed that he was going to end up at Ohio State once they offered, made a push for him. Notre Dame did not make a run at him yet. He's right there in Elkhart, Indiana, right in their backyard, essentially, and have not offered, have not made a push for him. So the assumption was it was going to be Ohio State, and it was a done deal. And then Georgia comes in, takes a visit, and it's like, whoa, like this is a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. And they're just, they're the team to beat right now. I really think it. I honestly, if I was going to put a crystal ball between the two of them, it would be on Georgia, which honestly, like 6 months ago, that would surprise me. I thought the Buckeyes had it really under control.
A guy we're hoping to get some more information on. Only 2 sacks as a junior, 4 tackles for loss, which is fine. Jordan Ross in the last cycle only had 2.5 as a junior. But you can see why Georgia and Notre Dame and Ohio State have all put out the feelers. He can win with speed and power, imposing frame. I think somewhat scheme versatile up front as well. He could be a jack linebacker, can potentially put his hand in the dirt. Certainly someone to monitor here over the next few months.
That's why production is just one piece of the evaluation process. We're so glad that you guys are here in Nashville, but you're also both going to leave after the show and go out on the road, go back to your day jobs. Tom, you are out in Vegas, not for the Super Bowl, but for a Nike event. Who are you looking forward to seeing in person?
Yeah, I mean, that list is pretty special, and I'm not going to lie, I want to watch all of them and get to know them a little bit better, especially in this role. It's going to be key. But let's just stay in state here in Tennessee and go with George McIntyre, Tennessee commit. Very excited to watch him throw it around. And look, this event's going to be a lot like the Pro Bowl. They're going to be having a lot of fun and treating it like an exhibition where they're just having, doing these games, might be some tug of war and things like that. But if they do actually break out some footballs, I'm excited to watch George throw it around a little bit, see what Tennessee is getting. The other one over in your backyard, Jamie French, one of the top receivers in America. Absolutely love the kid as a whole. Great player, obviously, but elite kid, in my opinion. Looking at Ohio State, Florida State, one-time Bama commit. If I had an early crystal ball pick, I think, I know they're not great at recruiting the receiver position, but I'm going to go with Ohio State right now. So those are the two I'm watching.
I know. They struggle so much with that, especially coming off this last class.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's rough.
Got the #1 wide receiver, #1 player. Pretty tough. Speaking of Andrew's backyard, you're going to Under Armour camp in Orlando. What are you hoping to see there?
First one of the year. I mean, the 7-on-7 stuff's great. Don't get me wrong. The junior seasons are great, but this is a camp circuit. They have stops all around the country. Orlando's the first one. We get verified measurements. We get to see these guys for the first time. And I'm not just talking about the wide receivers in the corners. You get to size up the big bodies. Last year, L.J. McCray, this was kind of his coming out party. He ended up finishing as a top 5 player for us. 2 guys I'm excited to see. Jesse Harold, out of the Tampa area, guy we took a flyer on in the top 247 in the update, stood out to us. We got not much information. Looking forward to seeing him. I think his stock is only going to take off. I think he only had like a Florida A&M offer when we put him in the top 247. And then Gerard Pringle, running back out of the same area, Tampa, caught on my radar early on in his season, ran for 306 yards and 4 touchdowns against Venice High School. A bunch of schools have offered him, so excited to see those 2 in person and find some other guys to move up in the rankings.
Yeah, you go in with expectations, but then you come out, maybe some guys that you weren't on your radar that surprised you, and you can read all about those guys on 247sports.com. You got to go here because that is where you're going to check out coverage from those 2 events. These guys will be all over it, so make sure that you are checking out 247sports.com. Out of Waukesha, Wisconsin, the #2 player in the state, offensive tackle Owen Strebig, is minutes away from making his college commitment live on this very show. The offensive tackle from the 2025 class has a 90 rating and is a top 25 player at his position. And it all comes down to this. His finalists, man, they go coast to coast, everywhere in between. You've got Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and USC. Let's waste no more time and welcome in the prospect himself. So excited to welcome Owen Strebig here on the show. Owen, yes, thank you so much. Let's start off with this. How has the recruiting process gone for you?
Everything's been a blessing. I honestly didn't know if I'd get one offer, so places I've been able to go and the places I've been able to see are remarkable, and I'm excited that it's coming to an end here.
Yeah, you got a few more than one offer, which of course makes the decision that much more challenging. But before we get to that decision, tell us who is with you today and who would you like to thank?
All right, perfect. So I have my dad with me. I have my older sister, my older brother, and my mom. And then I'd just like to first off thank them for supporting me through this entire journey. If I didn't have such a great support system, none of this would have been possible. And then I also really want to thank my high school coach, Coach Young, helping me where I am today and helping me become the man I am today. And then finally, I just want to thank all the schools and all the relationships that I built through this process. And yeah, thank you.
I love it. All right, Owen, you have the floor. Where are you headed to play college ball?
Yes, ma'am. With all that being said, I'm excited to announce I'll be continuing my academic and athletic career at the University of Notre Dame.
There you have it. Owen Strebig is going to be a member of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I see you've already got the shirt, you've got the hat, you're ready to go. Huge pickup for Marcus Freeman's already #1 2025 class. And Owen, you get to be a part of it. What made you decide on Notre Dame?
Notre Dame is the perfect place for #1, I can lock down my degree, and then #2, I can play for national championships year in and year out. And that gold standard is something that draws me, and I'm excited to be a part of it and carry on the tradition.
Yeah, a lot of gold there at Notre Dame. What kind of player is Marcus Freeman getting in you?
He's getting someone that'll be a team guy first. I believe offensive line is one of the positions you cannot be selfish in, because if you're selfish, it's going to be bad. If everybody's bought into the 5-on-1 mindset, good things are going to happen.
Well, I know that Irish fans that are watching right now are hoping that good things will happen. There's a lot of Clovers here in our YouTube chat, so speak to them. What is your message to the Irish fans watching right now?
Irish fans, I'm excited. Let's continue to build this class and go Irish.
I love it. Owen, congratulations. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your big day. Go celebrate.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Awesome. Love to see that. Guys, man, this is a show sponsored by Notre Dame. It seems like they are off to such a hot start in the 2025 class. Andrew, as you look at this prospect and what you project him to be at the next level, I mean, what kind of player did Notre Dame just land?
Well, you take a look at the class. They also already have Will Black committed. I think that's 2 potential bookend tackles. And then Notre Dame in the 2024 cycle, which they just finalized, Gerby Lambert, Antonio Knapp. I think Notre Dame is reloading in the trenches. And, you know, with Owen, swallows people up with his size. He's a guy that you look at him. I mean, again, he's listed at 6'8". He was almost stood up outside of that shot. He's a big guy and hardly developed from a physical standpoint. You know, it looks like the body has yet to mature. You get him there in South Bend. I think he's a guy that's going to need some time, right? Developmental year or 2, but you can try him on the left side. You can try him on the right side, and if you have to, you kick him into the middle at one of those interior spots. So huge for Notre Dame. You know, we keep talking about those quarterbacks and what they've been able to do. Someone's got to protect for them.
Exactly.
Owen, Will Black, those guys should be able to do it.
How'd they get this one done?
So when I was talking to Owen earlier this week, he made it clear that he wanted to commit to, at least in his gut, he wanted to commit to Notre Dame back in July. And he just wanted to slow it down a little bit. He felt like it was a little bit rushed. But after a visit, he fell in love with the place. Marcus Freeman, Joe Rudolph, Chad Bowden all did a phenomenal job. So he takes his time, considers Wisconsin, takes trips, considers Miami. And then honestly, when it came down to it, Miami, Florida State, they were all involved, but it was Miami that was the runner-up. That was the really tough one for him to say no to. But in the end, he felt at home. He really had a great connection with the coaching staff. Him and Deuce Snyder, they couldn't be closer. So I know he's going to be making sure that Deuce stays locked in and doesn't go flirting with Ole Miss or Alabama or anything like that. So in the end, it was home for him. He thought it was the best of both worlds, and Marcus Freeman got another big-time talent.
What is it about him, not just his ability to play, but I mean, it seems like between the ears, he is a Notre Dame guy through and through. How important is that?
Oh, I mean, it's exactly what you're looking for. They recruit a certain type of kid. They can't recruit everybody. Everybody on Ivins' 5-star list, it's not going to fit exactly what they're looking for or what they can get. But Owen's exactly that. He's a tremendous talent, but I said to you before the show, he's an awesome kid. You're going to love him. He's just a guy that everybody gets along with. You know, he even shouted out one of our old colleagues, Ryan Bardo, who's now at Florida State, used to work at 24/7 Sports. He's from Wisconsin. So those two just really hit it off. And again, it made him feel comfortable with Florida State because that's where Barto's from in Wisconsin. So the kid just gets along with everybody, loves everybody, but big time pickup for the Irish.
Big time pickup for the Irish, adding to that #1 class already in 2025. I asked you for questions and you delivered, so let's ask some questions. Patrick would like to know, who was your favorite player to watch at Battle Miami? You can kick us off. Pick one, Andrew. That's easy, right?
I think Derek Meadows. Tom mentioned him a little bit prior when we were discussing Notre Dame's class and who they could add.
Shocker.
I mean, a guy that has not caught a ton of passes there at Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman, but he was the Gatorade Track and Field Player of the Year last year. I mean, all of 6'4". He can run like a deer, and I thought his ability to just snap defensive backs off on routes and then go get the football certainly stood out. We gave him a battlefield invite to the All-American Bowl right there. I think he hopefully has since committed to the game, but he is certainly someone that stood out. We were wondering why he only had 12 scholarship offers or whatever it was. Well, after that event, I think that list has doubled. Oregon offered him this morning. It's like, I guess we know what we're doing when we can identify Derek Meadows.
Yeah, he's incredible, man. He's a special kid, and he'll be out there. And obviously he's from Vegas, but he's actually a part of the Nike event, so I'm looking forward to seeing him again. But for me, I had never seen this kid in person. 5-star wide receiver, DeCorian Moore. Incredible talent. He did it on both sides of the ball, and it was so much fun to watch. And then we had talked about this with Ivins and Cooper, but he's sitting there, and this was probably the biggest takeaway was he's sitting there next to it. I think it was actually next to Kean Russell, and Russell throws a pick in their little red zone area, and it may have been inside the 10, and he looks up to him real calmly and just says, you can't make that throw. I would have done it. I saw what you saw, but you can't make it, not at this time. It was just like a coach, like a mentor, it just wise beyond his years. It like made me like the kid even more and made me feel even more comfortable with the ranking and everything. Like DeCorian Moore is an incredible person, incredible talent.
That's what I love hearing, those stories coming out of camp, not just what they're able to do football-wise, but the little moments that are kind of in between and the way that they handle success, the way that they handle failure. You glean so much from being around these guys, and those 7-on-7 tournaments seem like a lot of fun too.
So calm. Like it just made he's not going to get rattled.
Which is important if you're
mind-blowing. Like,
yeah.
It's just so calm. Yeah.
Stuff you can't see on tape.
Right.
Exactly. That's why you got to go there, and that's why you guys are bopping all over the country this time of year, but that's how we get the good information. Michael wants us to talk about Anthony Saka again and his top 5. Where do you see Notre Dame in this race is what he wants to know.
I think they're probably number 2. If you ask some people inside the Goog at Notre Dame, they actually think they lead for this recruitment, but I don't see it, not yet. I think that the connection to Knowles and Laurinaitis and what they're doing defensively and what they're doing with recruiting, it's obviously caught his eye and he's taken notice. So I think the one shocking omission was Penn State not being in there. I think a lot of people pegged him to end up in Happy Valley, but I'd have Notre Dame number 2, and I feel good about that. This one's far from over. He's going to take some spring visits. Probably a guy who makes a decision this summer. So keep an eye on the Irish, but right now, if I had to throw a crystal ball in, it would be on the Buckeyes.
Okay, we got this next question from Marshall. It's for you, Andrew. What is your opinion on Bear Bachmeier to Stanford? Follow-up, does Troy Taylor have them going in the right direction? Going into, we thought Oklahoma to the SEC sounds weird, the ACC for Stanford.
I thought we're calling this his first real recruiting class, was impressive. What flew under the radar on Wednesday when we're talking about Stanford is they had a pair of kids reclassify and sign, and they're going to join that program early, which is very difficult to do at an academic institution like Stanford. With Bear, someone that is, you don't think he's a dual threat talent at first glance, but he is a deceptive runner, had a big year on the ground, and as a passer. He's a guy that has won games on Friday nights, and they're pairing him or following him or bringing him after Elijah Brown, who was one of the most decorated signal callers in the 2024 cycle. So quarterback has been an issue there on the farm in recent years. I mean, you go back to last year before preseason camp, it's like 4 or 5 different names that were in it. I think moving forward, it's going to be between Elijah and Bachmeier. And then I think with Stanford's class, they got a sleeper tight end, Benjamin Blackburn down in Florida. Cole Tabb, another kid we tabbed as a 4-star prospect late. So it was an impressive group for Stanford, and it's starting to feel like, okay, these are some of the Stanford classes we saw under David Shaw.
All right, we got one last question here from Tyler. Tom, does Indiana really stand a chance getting a guy like Julian Lewis?
Not what I would have expected to say about 48 hours ago, but I'm going to give him a shot. I really do. I think that, honestly, I'll just call my shot at this point. I don't see USC keeping him in their class. I see some other heavy hitters in this one, whether it's Georgia, Auburn, and I'm not ready to write off Indiana. I talked to somebody today that said, Tino Sinceri, that relationship is very real. And let's be honest, if that kid steps on campus, there's nobody else that's going to keep that dude from playing in year one. He's that special of a talent. So I'm not ready to write him off. People were making it very clear to me today that that relationship means a lot. They've known each other, like I said, for 7 years, had him at the youth camp in Tallahassee. You know, relationships matter to a lot of these guys, and Juju's one of those guys that it carries a lot of weight.
I love it. Thank you both so much for being here. As a reminder, Tom Loy, officially a member of our national team. You can catch him on this podcast, everyone's favorite podcast, Football Recruiting Podcast. Check it out.